score sheet was in my hand when Colonel Weth made the announcement. I was standing third from the left in the candidate line at Fob Kellert's staging bay, still reading my own numbers. 312 out of 320, enough to put me in the top third. When the colonel stopped in front of the woman, 2 positions down from me, he looked at his clipboard. He looked at her. Then he read her score aloud to the entire bay. 329. He said it the way a man says a wrong answer. This is a data entry error. He turned to the cadre sergeant at his shoulder. Flag it for review and move her to support billets. Then he looked back at her. You'll surrender your field kit to Sergeant Haas. Evaluation candidates carry verified scores only. She was maybe 5'5", older than the rest of us by at least a decade, her plate carrier worn gray at the shoulders. She had a calm face. Not patient, not resigned, just settled, the way some terrain is settled, like it has no argument with the weather. She unclipped her kit without a word and handed it to Sergeant Haas and stepped back from the line. I watched her do it. I did not say anything. 329 was 6 points higher than the highest score in the bay, and I stood there holding my 312 and said nothing. That is the part I come back to. The Darrow Space and Field phase ran the following morning. 22 candidates, 8 cadre instructors, 12-kilometer evaluation route through broken shale and dry creek bed, 3 objective sites. Colonel Weth ran his brief at 0530 from the back of a logistics truck, and she was there in a gray support vest, no rifle, no pack. Range safety observer according to the duty board, standing off the left side of the truck, with a radio she was not supposed to need. We moved at 066 Ed. I was on the Eastern Corridor team, 7 candidates plus instructor Havers, spreading the shale switchbacks toward Objective 2 when the first round came in. Not a simulation. The crack was wrong. Too sharp, too close. And Havers had his hand up before the echo finished. We went flat into the creek bed, and I pressed my face into the gravel and listened to the radio traffic dissolve into competing voices. The interdiction position was somewhere northwest, above the notch at the head of the basin. Someone on cadre net said 1,200 meters. Someone else said 18. Havers got on the horn and asked for a spotter red and got silence, because the spotter team was pinned behind the first objective marker, and their optics were pointed the wrong direction. I heard her voice on the net before I knew it was her. Basin wind is running northeast at 11. Dust devils off the second shale shelf put the deflection right of center. The notch runs north-northwest. Your shooter is in the shadow of the upper rock face using the dust for concealment. Range from my position is 2,200. 840. A pause. I need the evaluation rifle from the support vehicle. It's sighted to 300. I'll need 6 minutes. Havers looked at me. I don't know what my face did. The cadre commander came on net and said the evaluation rifle was a qualification tool, not an operational weapon, and that support observers did not have authorization for live engagement. She came back and said she understood that, and that she would be at the support vehicle in 90 seconds if someone wanted to discuss it further in person, that whoever was in that notch had already ranged the primary objective and had a line on the Eastern Corridor, and that in her assessment they 4 to 6 minutes before a second engagement. There was a long silence on the net. Then Havers said, "Let her have the rifle." I moved up the creek bed to get eyes on the support vehicle. I don't know why. There was nothing useful I could do, but I needed to see it. She was prone behind the evaluation rifle. When I got there, her gray vest flat in the shale dust, the barrel angled up into the notch. A junior cadre sergeant named Polk was crouched 2 meters to her left, and she was talking to him in a voice so level it sounded like she was reading coordinates from a map. Wind just dropped 2 knots. See the dust at the base of the upper face? It's pulling left now. I'm going to hold 3 mils right of where I held before. She adjusted without moving the rest of her body. When I fire, watch the trace. Tell me where it falls short. Polk said he had never called a correction at this range. She said, "I'll teach you. Watch the base of the notch." First round went. Polk said, "Short, maybe 30 meters, left edge of the shadow." She made a single adjustment. Her breathing did not change. Second round in 8 seconds. The second round went. The radio traffic from the notch went silent, a full second. 2. Then, The cadre spotter team reported the interdiction position neutralized. One confirmed. The second had gone to ground and withdrawn. The evaluation cadre began to move. She handed the rifle to Polk and stood up and brushed the shale off her vest and walked back to the support vehicle and picked up her radio. She did not look at me. She called in the all clear on the support net in the same level voice and logged the time as 0847. I stood in the creek bed for a moment, with nothing in my hands, thinking about the score sheet from the morning before. 329. A data entry error. The after action was at 1400 hours in the staging bay. Colonel Weth ran it. He was a thorough man. I will give him that. And he went through the sequence event by event candidly, without softening the part where his cadre had been unable to identify the firing position geometry. He got to the interdiction response and read the radio transcript aloud, and then he stopped. He asked Sergeant Polk to confirm the range. Said 2,200 meters, plus or pulses 40. In a 12 to 11 knot variable crosswind, dust obscured, through a notch 7 feet wide at its narrowest point. 2 shots, both clean. The colonel looked at his roster. He asked for her name and her unit of attachment. Polk gave them. The colonel wrote something down. Then the cadre S3 put a folder on the table in front of him, a thin folder, the kind with a red diagonal stripe at the top right corner that means classified annex. And the colonel opened it. He read the first page without expression, then the second. Then he turned to a tabbed section near the back and read it, and his expression changed. Field evaluation standard we had been running for 2 days. The scoring rubric, the qualification tiers, the range parameter tables, the wind correction protocol, had been written by one person. The annex listed her name and her designation. Classified marksmanship and field evaluation instructor. Branch record 11 consecutive Tier 1 solo evaluations, unattributed. The call sign assigned by the branch evaluation command was 2 words. Holt wire. The colonel closed the folder. He stood up from the table. He walked the full length of the staging bay, past the cadre row and the candidate row, where she was seated at the far end with her gray support vest, and her radio and her hands flat on her thighs. He came to attention. He rendered a formal salute and held it. Around the bay, the cadre came to attention without a word from anyone. The candidates followed. I came to attention with my arms at my sides and I held it. And I looked at her face, and her face did not change. That settled quality, the terrain that has no argument with the weather. And she returned the salute and then sat down and made a note in her log. Colonel Weth lowered his hand. He walked back to the table. He sat down and looked at his roster for a long time without speaking. Then he said, "Resume after action." And we did. I have thought about the score sheet 100 times since that day. 329. Highest number in the bay, and a man with a clipboard looked at it and decided it was wrong because it came from a source he had already decided was insufficient. She wrote the standard. She wrote the tables he used to score us. The correction protocol Polk learned in 4 sentences on a shale creek bed. The wind parameters the cadre had failed to apply when the shooting was real. The evaluation was measuring us against a ruler she had made. And when the shooting started, she was the only one in the basin who had ever full passed it. I finished the evaluation 2 days later. Don't know my final score. I know I kept making the correction Polk described. Watch the dust at the base of the upper face. Hold 3 mils right. And I know it worked, and I know where I learned it. That is the thing I carried out of Darrow Basin. Not a lesson she taught me. Just the correction. Stated once in a level voice to a sergeant who had never called a shot at that range. The work, done cleanly, while the shale settled.